Welcome, brave souls. If you love mystery, horror, and the unknown, make sure to subscribe and like this video. It keeps the darkness whispering more secrets. Now, turn off the lights, take a deep breath, and let's dive into today's chilling story.
It was a long time ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday. When I was little, my parents would tell me stories about a scary man who would walk around the neighborhood at night, looking in windows to see if anyone was home. If he saw that a house was empty, he would let himself in through an unlocked door or window and steal things. He wasn't violent, so no one was ever hurt, but he did steal some valuable stuff. That's why we always made sure our doors were locked and our windows were closed at night. My parents told me that story to scare me into being more careful, but I never really believed them. I thought it was just a story made up to keep kids like me from wandering around the house at night. Then one night it happened. It was a school night, so I was in bed by 9 o'clock, but I couldn't sleep. I kept tossing and turning, and I started hearing strange noises. At first they were muffled, but they slowly got louder. The sound of heavy footsteps near my room. I was scared. But I didn't want to be a baby, so I just pretended to be asleep until the noise outside my room stopped. Then I heard footsteps coming down the hallway towards my room. I could hear my doorknob rattling. Someone was trying to open my door. When I was just about to scream, the door opened and a pair of bright yellow eyes peered in. I screamed and pulled the covers over my head. Then I started praying that whatever was out there would go away. I don't remember what I said exactly, but it was something along the lines of, "Please God, make this monster go away." After what felt like an eternity, the door closed and I heard footsteps going back down the hall. Once I knew whoever it was had left my room, I got out from under the covers and got up to check if everything was okay. My bedroom door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open the rest of the way and walked out into the hallway. I called out for my parents, but they didn't answer. I don't remember exactly how long I stood there thinking about what to do next, but it must have been a few minutes. I decided to go look downstairs. No one was in the living room. I checked the kitchen and Mom and Dad's bedroom. No one was anywhere too that I could see. I went back to my room and got my Walkman and listened to music until I heard my parents pull into the driveway. When they came in, I told them what had happened, but they just kind of laughed and said they were glad I was okay. My dad even jokingly said, "Maybe now you'll finally believe me when I tell you to lock your door." But I still didn't believe him. I mean, why would someone break into our house in the middle of the night? And what would they want to steal? That night I locked my door and left my bedside lamp on, and I slept with both my doors open just in case. I never heard anything else that night. In the morning, I told my parents that I wanted to stay home from school because I was scared that the mysterious intruder might come back. They thought that was ridiculous. My dad even said, "You not keeping me from going to work just because you think some burglar might come back, are you?" My mom agreed with my dad and they both left for work. So it was just me at home alone. Stayed in the living room and watched TV for most of the day. Then around 4 p.m. I heard the front door open. I jumped up and turned around, but it was only my mom. She asked me what was wrong. Why was I so jumpy all of a sudden? I explained about the door, and she said that she'd talked to Dad, and they both agreed that I should go to school. I tried to convince her that I should be alone in the house after what happened the night before, but she wouldn't budge. She said that I wasn't being reasonable, and that I needed to stop being such a scaredy cat. So she left. I was alone again. Now I was getting really scared. But I knew that my parents would come home soon. So I poured myself a glass of water and went back to watching TV. About an hour later, I heard the front door open again, but no one said a word. I looked out the window and saw a man standing on our porch. Couldn't see his face because he was far away, but I knew that I had seen those yellow eyes before. I quickly shut the curtains and locked the door. But then, I heard scratching sounds at the window. I ran to the other side of the room and watched in horror as the man used a pair of bolt cutters to snip off one of the window locks. I ran to the door and locked myself in, started pounding on the window, yelling for me to open the door. I screamed as loud as I could, but the man just kept pounding and yelling. I fell to my knees and started praying for help, and my dad came through the front door. He must have come home early. He opened the door to my room, looked out the window and yelled, "Get away from there, you bastard." The man stopped pounding and retreated. My dad grabbed the baseball bat that was leaning against the wall and went to the window. Yelled out, "Get away from here, you son of a bitch, or I'll hit you with this." The man ran off. The coast was clear. My dad opened the window and stepped outside. I followed him out, and he looked at me and asked if I was okay. I nodded, but I couldn't speak. I was too scared. He hugged me and said that he was sorry I had to go through that. He explained that he and my mom had received an anonymous tip that someone had been breaking into houses at night and stealing expensive electronics, so they decided to come home early. We never caught that man, but sometimes I think he's out there waiting for me. I've moved out of my parents' house, and I live by myself now. My phone number hasn't changed, but I haven't received any calls from any unknown numbers lately. I hope it stays that way. One day, though, I know that I'm going to get a call. The line is gone, nah, go dead silent, and then I am gone, nah, hear a raspy voice say, hello. Is this the house where the faceless man waits for me every night? I'm currently looking for a new apartment because my lease is up, and I've been checking out places all over the city. A lot of places are nice, but they're pretty expensive. Last week I found a place that's really cheap, but the person on the phone said that it needed a little work. I figured that if I could find someone to split the rent with me, we could afford the deposit and the first month's rent. So I put an ad on Craigslist looking for a roommate. Yesterday, I got a call from someone who saw the ad, talked for a while, and it turns out that she was perfect. We hung up, and I gave her the address of the apartment. She said that she'd stop by and take a look around. I was excited to finally have a roommate, but I also had a bad feeling about this. I don't know. Something about her voice just gave me the creeps. When I opened the front door yesterday, I saw a pair of bright yellow eyes peering in.